It was a cold February night when this woman was left alone on the street after an argument with her friend. It was late at night after her birthday celebration, which should have been a happy occasion. But she was left on the sidewalk without shoes or a ride. Times like these, we all rely on the kindness of strangers. But who can we trust? When an Uber driver turned her away, she put her faith in the wrong person and was never heard from again.
I want to say is somebody know or somebody have my daughter. Please just let her go.
Investigators have been searching Coleman's apartment in Providence all day.
Houston police are searching for a missing woman who was last seen leaving a nightclub.
Tonight, an emotional farewell to a young mother.
Jassy Correia had just finished celebrating her 23rd birthday back in 2019 when police say she was taken by Lewis.
A search for the woman began when she went missing after a night.
A suitcase, a trail of CCTV, and a birthday party gone horribly wrong. This is the tragic story of Jassy Correia. Jassy Correia was born in February 1996 in Praia, Cape Verde. She had moved to the U.S. at the age of 3 with her father and grew up in Boston, grateful to her family for the opportunities they had afforded her and excited about her life. This was documented in her notebook, where she made plans for her future. The notebook had the words, "Life is my favorite adventure" on the front. Inside it, she tracked her budget and to-do lists, writing things like apply for jobs in person, go see family, take the test at least once, fail or pass, and find a new job. Motivational things in the margins of this notebook, such as "You've got this," "You can do it," and #thrive. Jassy had experienced poverty as a child and had a social worker helping her to find her feet. But this notebook was proof of her optimism. She had a job as a hostess in a Boston restaurant, and she was looking for more work closer to home in Dorchester to support herself and her 2-year-old daughter, Gabby. Gabby had been born out of tumultuous circumstances. Her father, Jassy's ex, was Miguel A. Castro. It is unclear how Jassy and Miguel met, but things would soon turn sour. In January 2018, when their daughter was only a year old, Jassy texted Miguel's mother, "You need to help me. Miguel won't let me leave. Don't call him, he'll kill me." She also sent his mother a photo of herself. Miguel had broken her nose and fractured her orbital bone. Miguel's mother called 911. The police found Jassy hiding beneath the stairs in Miguel's home, barely able to speak. Apparently, Miguel had become jealous that she was texting another man and had flown into a rage, refusing to let her leave his residence. Police charged him, but Jassy refused to cooperate in the court case that followed. She could hardly be blamed for this. She had had an extremely traumatic experience with the father of her child, and perhaps she just wanted to forget. Miguel was found guilty of kidnapping, assault and battery, intimidation of a witness, and attempt to commit a crime. He was sentenced to 4.5 to 5 years in state prison alongside 3 years of probation, and he was ordered to not have any contact with Jassy. Did Jassy breathe a sigh of relief that she was finally safe from her dangerous ex? She was certainly trying to get her life back together. She was working on putting her daughter into daycare, looking for a more long-term and stable place to live. And she had a job interview scheduled for February 25th, 2019. But Jassy would never make this interview. Jassy's 23rd birthday was February 26, 2019. This was a Tuesday, so she decided to celebrate with her friends the weekend before, on Saturday the 23rd. She'd made plans with her friend Asia to go to a club that evening, while Gabby was being looked after by her paternal grandmother, Miguel's mother, who'd saved Jassy's life the year before. Jassy trusted Miguel's mother implicitly and knew she'd stop anything bad from happening to Gabby. But she didn't realize that it was her own safety she should have been worrying about. On Saturday morning, Jassy went to her friend Nia's apartment in Dorchester. Together, they went out shopping, where Jassy bought the outfit she'd wear to the club that evening: black high heels, an orange jumpsuit, and a denim jacket with wings on the back. They got ready together at Nia's apartment. Jassy kept her purse and her phone with her, but she left all her other belongings behind at Nia's place, including the keys to her own apartment. She planned to stay at Nia's after the night out, so she'd be able to grab her stuff before collecting her daughter the next day. Asia and her friend Reggie picked up Jassy and Nia from Nia's apartment close to midnight. They'd set off late, and there'd been some confusion about where they were meeting Jassy, so the party atmosphere was already in full swing when they arrived at the club they'd chosen, Venue, in downtown Boston at 12:40 a.m. The four friends ended up on a corner of the crowded bar. They bought a bottle of champagne and shared it before drinking a few shots of tequila each. Then they took to the dance floor. This was Nia's last memory of Jassy. When the friends returned to the bar, Nia started an argument with Jassy. It's unclear what this argument was about. It continued until the club's 2 a.m. closing time, at which point the group left to walk through an alley on their way back to the parking garage. On this walk, Jassy took her heels off and gave them to Asia to carry. CCTV captured Jassy and Nia continuing to fight, with Nia pushing Jassy multiple times. According to Asia and Reggie, Jassy tried to de-escalate the situation, trying to convince Nia to calm down and get into the car with them so they could go back to Nia's apartment. But Nia was drunk and still acting aggressive, refusing to get into the car. Asia wanted Jassy to come with them and leave Nia behind, but Jassy wasn't upset by her friend's behavior, just concerned. She wanted Nia to be safe. So Asia and Reggie drove off, leaving Jassy and Nia to call an Uber. They'd accidentally taken Jassy's shoes with them, so Jassy was left barefoot, and Nia walked off by herself. This was the last time any of them saw Jassy alive. She did not make it back to Nia's apartment that night. Nia, waking up in an empty apartment, was concerned to realize that Jassy hadn't come back. She tried calling Jassy, but there was no answer. Jassy's friends all kept trying to contact her over the next few days, but she'd never returned their calls.
She's always with me. So for her to be missing for those couple of days and I don't hear anything, I knew something was wrong.
By the afternoon of February 26th, Jassy's 23rd birthday, Nia and Jassy's father had to report her missing.
Nothing, because I want to say is somebody know or somebody have my daughter. Call me or call the police department, Boston, or anybody.
The police began searching the area around the club where she had been seen. The location was well covered by CCTV, and they were soon able to track her last movements. They found footage of Jassy where Nia had left her, alone on the sidewalk in only a denim jacket with no shoes. She spotted an Uber idling by the side of the street and walked towards it, asking the driver if he could use her app to hire him. But he wanted to be hired as an Uber XL to earn more money. When she got into the car, he pushed her out again and she fell onto the sidewalk. This was when she was approached by another man. At 2:16 a.m., according to police footage, the other man picked her up and held her by both hands for nearly a minute as he talked to her on the sidewalk. She looked around for Nia. Not seeing her, she apparently agreed to go with this man. This was a tragic mistake. The man was Louis D. Coleman III. Louis was 32 years old and lived in Providence, Rhode Island. Originally from California, he held a master's degree in experimental physics from California State University, Long Beach. He had been interested in bioengineering and had worked in an electrical engineering lab working to develop a sleep aid app. He'd been a quiet and smart student, though he'd struggled financially and occasionally missed deadlines for his schoolwork. In 2017, he had moved to the East Coast to start a job at Raytheon in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Lewis was living a comfortable life, earning around $70,000 a year. By all accounts, Lewis was an ordinary man with good prospects, and his past betrayed no hint of what was to come. In the early hours of Sunday, February 24, 2019, Lewis, too, was at venue. He had arrived at 1 a.m. and met a young woman called Lorna. They immediately hit it off, and near closing time, they were heading toward the bathroom together when Lorna's brother intervened. Maybe he didn't like the look of Lewis. Lewis and Lorna continued to text, but Lorna and her brother left the club without him. We can only speculate on what Lewis was thinking as he left the club alone that night. Did he feel he'd been robbed of female company after being left behind by Lorna? Was he searching for someone else? On Tremont Street, Lewis passed the Uber Jassy was talking to. He turned his head to watch as Jassy was rejected for a ride, and he made sure that at 2:16 a.m., when she was pushed out of the car, he was right beside her to pick her up. They talked. He convinced her, drunk and vulnerable, to come with him. A series of CCTV cameras captured him walking with her, then giving her a piggyback ride. Perhaps her bare feet were cold. Further down the street, she made the fateful decision to get into his car. Police were able to match the image of Lewis on CCTV to the image of his ID taken at venue. They now knew who he was. His Android phone kept a log of his location data, and when police accessed this, they matched his location in the early hours of Sunday to Tremont Street. He drove only to the other side of the street, where the car remained stationary for 12 minutes with the headlight off as CCTV showed. Then he turned them back on and drove away. Surveillance showed that when he came across two police cars with their blue lights flashing, he immediately backed up the way he had come. Clearly, he had something to hide. At 4:15 a.m., he arrived back at his residence on Chestnut Street in Providence. It was only an hour's drive away from the club, so what had he been doing with his spare time? On Wednesday evening, the Boston police called the Providence Police Department to call at Lewis's apartment. They did so at around 1 a.m. in the morning of Thursday, February 28th, but they weren't able to enter the building. Little did the police know that Lewis was actually on the street watching them as they tried to contact him. After they left, he went to get his car from where he had parked it a few blocks ago, and within 15 minutes of their departure, he was captured on CCTV wheeling a suitcase towards his car. The next day, the Boston police went down to Providence. They entered Lewis's apartment, which was empty. The windows were open, though it had been snowing, and both a couch cushion cover and the shower curtain were missing. The truth soon became horribly clear. Whatever attempts Lewis would later take to cover his tracks, he had failed to account for the copious CCTV on the streets and indeed inside his own building. All police had to do was to look at the security feed and the footage too horrible to be released. They watched him drive into the parking lot early on Sunday morning, and they watched him bring Jassy's body out of the car. He dragged her through the empty lobby and up to his apartment. Jassy was already dead.
The victim was naked and covered in what is believed to be baking soda, and the body matches the description of Miss Jassy Correia.
What was the reason making him do that? And why?
This was incontrovertible evidence that had something to do with her death, and the evidence only got more damning. Over the next few days, he was seen entering the building with various suspicious packages he had been spotted buying in Walmart, such as duct tape, electrical tape, surgical gloves, and an odor respirator. And most concerning, the police found the CCTV footage taken only that morning, which depicted Lewis taking a large suitcase out of the building. He struggled to lift it into the trunk of the car. It was clearly heavy. and it was tragically clear what the suitcase contained. Police were able to turn on the car's OnStar location tracker. They intercepted Lewis, who was driving it, in Delaware. In the trunk, they found the suitcase, and inside the suitcase was Jassy's body.
Is there anybody else in the car? Yes. Yes. Where? Where in the car? Stop the car. Whoever's in the car, get out of the car. Go to the back seat now.
Police would discover the remains of Jassy Correia in a suitcase inside Coleman's trunk. The same suitcase prosecutors say he purchased the day before at a Rhode Island Walmart.
The car itself showed signs of the crime. There were 2 spider cracks near the top of the passenger side windshield, like someone had kicked it. Swabs from the windshield revealed DNA of both Lewis and Jassy. Police also recovered Lewis's computer from the trunk. He had made a number of internet searches between February 24th and 27th, such as, can a person fit in a suitcase, how to pull teeth that are not loose, and how to embalm a body. He had tried his best to cover up this insidious crime, but he couldn't hide from what he'd done. The autopsy showed that he had assaulted and then strangled her. No one could explain what had motivated it. Lewis's cousin said,
"You know, I grew up in a nice house. I have no idea what could have got him in this situation. Nothing ever really stood out as something like, oh, you might want to check in on him or keep your eye on him. He was a good, honest guy as far as I knew. I mean, clearly he wasn't telling the truth to everybody. I don't even think he was arrested before. As soon as I saw that information, you feel bad that it's happening to your family, but as for him, it's I don't really feel too bad.
I think that she went in willingly, and then he killed her because she rejected him.
This bright young woman, who despite a traumatic past had held so much hope for her future, had been lured to her death in a senseless attack.
I can't believe it.
Girl, she was a mother, she was brave, she was strong. She did not deserve this. She went out to celebrate her birthday and never returned home.
Women should have a right to go to any nightclub and wear whatever they want to and not worried about being kidnapped and murdered at the end of their night.
In the Cape Verdean community and law enforcement, everybody came together to make sure she gets justice.
In 2022, Lewis faced justice. He was convicted of kidnapping resulting in death and sentenced to life in prison.
He is now in custody in Delaware and should soon appear in federal court on this new federal charge. The charge in our case is kidnapping resulting in death. This charge carries a sentence of mandatory life and is also death penalty eligible.
He knew exactly what he did, so he just get what he deserved.
Let's remind the men in our lives that violence against women isn't a woman's issue. It's a problem that men take responsibility for in their lives, in their sons' lives, and in the social lives with friends and colleagues.
What are your thoughts on this horrible story? Could Jassy's tragic death have been prevented? Until next time, stay safe, keep up with our channel, and we'll see you very soon on The Decoder.